Hi there, welcome to Price This House. I'm Dave O'Neil, broker-owner of Century 21 Spindler & O'Neil.
And I'm Kimberly O'Neil Mara, and thank you for joining us. We're in the midst of a very busy spring market, so we're going to get right to it and start off with just the facts. We're going to be highlighting the 4 communities of North Reading, Lynnfield, and Andover, and Dave's going to start us off with North Reading.
Great, thank you. First quarter 2014 has been a busy time, but not a lot of inventory. So there hasn't been a lot of action going on. We had 22 units sold for single families versus 22 for last year. Very typical for the first quarter of the year. The average list price this year is $505,000 versus last year was $448,000, which is a 13% average list price increase. Average sales price for the first quarter, $500,889 versus last year $442,036, which is also a 13% sales price increase. Days on market 66 versus last year 107. 38% decrease on number of days on market, which is again indicating that there just isn't a lot of inventory, so people are snatching up what is on the market. For North Reading condos, we have 4 units sold versus 4 last year. Average list price $234,900 versus $233,450, basically flat. Average sale price $228,925 versus $222,250. Again, virtually unchanged. Days on market, 65 versus 95. Again, drastic decrease in number of days on market, just limited inventory that's out there. North Reading multifamily, there wasn't any units the first quarter. Again, North Reading has such a minimal number of multifamilies anyway, that's not really a surprise. Last year there was only 1. And then also for North Reading for land, there were 2 units this year versus 1 for last year. Average list price this year, $210 versus last year, $420. Again, when you're dealing with small numbers, it can be skewed. We don't get into percentages. It's just depending on the individual lots that happen to sell. Days on market, basically 157 versus 180, which is, again, land this time of year. Not much usually moves in the wintertime. More of it comes on in the spring and the summer market. Kim, ready?
All right, on to the Reading market review. Again, we're reviewing stats from the first quarter of 2014 versus the first quarter of 2013. In Reading, for single-family sales, we had 28 units sell in 2014 versus 33 in 2013. That's a 15% decrease, and there again, echoing what Dave was talking about, is that is because there is just not enough inventory to sell. If there was more property available for sale, those numbers would be higher, but that 15% decrease is just based on the limited inventory that we do have. Interestingly enough, the average list price and sales price also decreased a little bit in Reading in 2014. It was $483,000 in 2014 compared to $529,000 in 2013 for your average list price, and your average sale price went from $517,000 a year ago down to $479,000. So that's a 9% and 7% decrease respectively. A little bit typical for over the winter. I think that's going to self-correct and adjust over the course of the year. So when we look at the year after next quarter and the year on whole, I think that should adjust. I think that's just because we're kind of coming out of the winter months, and we did have such a terrible winter with so much snow, right, so much cold, that I think that's definitely playing into that a little bit. Interestingly enough, even with those price decreases, the days on market, to echo what Dave said about the North Reading market, they dropped from 92 days on average in 2013 down to 48 days. That's a 48% drop. And that is just so indicative of this market. There is just so little inventory that comes on the market that when it does, it sells very, very quickly. To drop almost 50% in number of days is pretty substantial, and that's the reasoning. In terms of condos, there were quite a few more condos sold in 2014 than in 2013. There were 7 in 13 and 20 units in 2014, almost a 200% increase in number of units. In terms of the prices, interestingly enough, stayed fairly flat. They went from $289 a year ago to about $298 in 2014. For an average list price, an average sale price went from $285 up to $294. Both of those are about a 3% increase, and what we would consider relatively flat. There again, days on market, however, for the 7 units that sold in 2013, their average time on the market was 83 days versus this year, 2014, it was only 58 days. So that was a 30% decrease in days on market. Same story, lack of inventory, things are selling more quickly. In terms of multifamilies, there weren't any in 2013 in the first quarter. 2014, we had 1 unit that was listed for $479, sold for $425. Not really enough data to analyze. And the same for the land. We didn't have any in 2014 compared to just 1 lot that sold in the first quarter last year. So again, really not enough data to analyze. I'll turn it back to Dave to go over the Lynnfield market.
The Lynnfield market being very healthy, however, it is limited numbers of sales due to the shortage of inventory. In 2013, for the first quarter, we saw 19 units. In 2014, for the first quarter, it was only 14 units. That's a 26% decrease. Again, time of year plus just the housing market in general with the shortage of inventory. The average list price last year was $476,000 versus this year $579,000, which is a 26% increase. The average sales price last year was $456,000 versus an average sales price this year of $561,000, which is a 22% increase. And days on market, which is 103 days last year versus 112 days this year, again, virtually flat. Limited inventory is the reason that the sales aren't greater. Okay, for Lynnfield condos, this year we had 3 units sell versus the first quarter in 2013 with 5 units. The average list price this year is $709,000 versus last year $363,000. The average sales price this year is $714,000 versus last year $354,000. That's virtually double this year versus last year. And the reason for that is the Windsor Estates adult gated community of townhouses. Absolutely beautiful, absolutely spectacular units. We're actually going to talk about that a little bit more detailed later on. The number of days on market this year is more than last year, but that's very common with new construction because they go into the system before they're really ready to be closed on, so that those days on market add up a lot faster. So the Lynnfield market is seeing dramatic increase with the dollar volume based on the new construction going on over there. And also Lynnfield multifamilies is flat, no units either year for the first quarter. And Lynnfield Land, there was 1 this year versus 0 last year. Again, you don't expect many land sales in Lynnfield. Kim?
Okay, to the Andover market, 2013 first quarter versus 2014 first quarter, we had 40 units sell in 13 and 45 in 14. So about a 12.5% increase in number of single-family sales. What's very nice for the Andover market is the list and sales price jumped. On that number of units, we really have some good data to analyze. And the average list price jumped from $472 up 29% to almost $611,000 for a single family. Very, very hot market. The average sale price was $462 just a year ago, and that jumped up to $595 this year. So again, very competitive market, and seeing almost a 30% increase in sales prices from just a year ago. The days on market also decreased, same with the other communities that we've been discussing. Days on market dropped from 136 down to 96, which was a 29% decrease as well. In terms of condos, the condos in 2013 in Andover, there were 14 units that sold versus 19 in 2014. That's a 36% increase. The average list price, interestingly enough, on this, it dropped a little bit. So there are, different styles of condos in Andover. You have some very high-end ones, you have some more apartment building style ones, and so there's very much of a big range. And in 2013, those 14 units average list price was $312 versus this year it was $184. And the average sale price was $305 versus this year was $180. Both of those are 41% decrease. Again, it just depends on the buildings that we're focusing on. But consistent with everything else we've been talking about, other than the new construction, the days on market went from 95 in 2013 down to 69 in 2014. On to multifamilies. We actually had a couple of multifamilies. Again, not a ton of data to examine, but in 2013 there were 6 multifamily units that were sold versus 2014 only 2. So 67% decrease when you start talking percentages, when you're talking between 2 and 6 units. Again, you don't have to take that terribly, into terrible consideration, but just to give that information to you. The average list price went from $426 up to $465, which is a 9% increase, and the average sale price went from $402 up to $440, so another 9% increase in sale price for multifamilies. Same story. Days on market went from 157 down to 61, which is a 61% decrease. So things were coming on the market and just selling very, very quickly. In terms of land in Andover, in 2013, we had 2 units sell in the first quarter. We didn't have any in 2014. Again, we had such a ridiculously difficult winter with the snow on the ground and the cold that we just didn't see a lot of land activity in the first quarter of the year. That pretty much wraps up our spotlight. That wraps up our Just the Facts. We're going to move on to the spotlight now and talk about a different home in each of those 4 communities.
Sure. Thank you. Property we'd like to highlight in North Reading is 25 Cedar Street. It was listed at $699,900 and sold for $672,000. It's an absolutely beautiful 2,700 square foot, 4-bedroom colonial. Sat on over 2 acres of land. Had a absolutely exquisite showstopper cherry kitchen, all granite, nice center island, formal dining room with crown molding, chair rail wainscoting, finished basement with an office and a TV room, plus a first floor family room off the kitchen, which was up over a 2-car attached garage. Again, just an absolutely exquisite home in 25 Cedar Street in North Reading that closed at $672,000.
In Reading, we're going to highlight 104 Woburn Street, which is a multifamily. Out of the communities that we discuss on the program, Reading is the community that has the majority of the multifamilies that we discuss. So this is one of them. 104 Woburn Street is on the corner of High Street, right across from the Reading train station. Wonderful, convenient commuter location. And this is something that we had the seller come to us. It was a fully tenanted building, and we had so many buyers that we've been working with that we knew exactly who to put into it and when, and it actually sold before it even went on the market. Mm-hmm. So great opportunity. It will be, they are converting them into condos, so they'll be coming on the market as condos about mid-June. So keep an eye out for that. Those are going to be, again, directly across the street from the Reading train station. So that was listed for $499, sold for full price, again, without it even going on the market, because we have so many buyers that we're working with that we're really able to kind of match people in this type of environment. It was a 3-unit building. It had 2 2-bedroom units and 1 1-bedroom unit. It had 6 parking spots for a total of 2,763 square feet. Needs a lot of updating. They're going to do a big renovation and convert them into luxury style condos, again, by the middle of the summertime.
Terrific. In Lynnfield, we're going to also look at the new Windsor Estates condominiums. It's 527 Salem Street, Unit 24. Was on for $898,900, sold for $934,900. It's 2,500 square feet. It has 20-foot high ceilings in the living room, crown moldings, wainscoting, beautiful gas fireplace, red oak hardwood floors, custom designed kitchen, granite, GE cafeteria style appliances, separate dining room with beautiful high ceilings, bow windows, and it's all near the new Market Street complex, so that adds to the desirability. Again, in Lynnfield, sold for $934,900, 8 rooms, 2 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. Kim?
Absolutely beautiful. In Andover, we're going to actually spotlight something that we left with you with in terms of our something to think about at the last show, and that is the complex of the Colonial Drive. We had 3 units that all sold in there very quickly. We had B1 Colonial Drive, Unit 4B, that was listed for $132,900 and sold for $127,000. We had A2 Colonial Drive Unit 3, that was a 2-bedroom, that was listed for $151,900 and sold for $155,000. And we had 40 Colonial Drive Unit 2, that was also a 2-bedroom, that was listed for $159,900 and sold for $156,000. So keep echoing, it's a fast market, so definitely time to sell. If you're thinking of selling now, is definitely a great time to take advantage of this very healthy spring market. So we just wanted to kind of revisit that because we left it with you last time to show you the progress on those condos in that community. And that wraps it up. That wraps up our spotlight.
Our next segment, Talk of the Town, is going to be dedicated to kitchen and bathroom renovations. The idea for this segment came from somebody in town that we constantly ask for suggestions or questions from people. They stopped us in the street and they said, what does an improvement into my kitchen or bath do to sale price? So we thought we'd bring in an expert. We're going to talk kitchens and baths with Diane Aucello from Edesia Kitchen and Baths in Burlington. We'll be right back. And we're back. This is the portion of the show that we call Talk of the Town. In this episode, we're going to talk about kitchens and baths. We did have, as we mentioned before, one of our viewers ask us about kitchen and bath renovations. So we thought we'd bring in the expert, the best expert we know in the field, Diane Aucello. And welcome, Diane.
Thank you, Dave. Nice to have you.
It's great to see you. I think probably a good place to start would be somebody calls you and says, you know what, I think I'd like to update my kitchen and bathrooms. What would the process be like?
The first thing is to understand where their problem areas are. Why is it they want to update their kitchen and bath? Is it outdated? We're seeing a lot of multi-generational families these days. Are their parents moving in? Are their kids moving back home? We need to know why they want to renovate their kitchen and bath, so that way the new plan will have what it is they're looking for.
So you're talking functionality more than just looks.
That's how I start, is
Okay.
with the function, correct?
Okay. So if someone says, well, you know, I have a 1970s or 1980s kitchen, I just want to give it a fresh look. So then you go in and you say, tell me about your lifestyle, tell me about your family, and you work from there?
Correct, correct. I mean, you've seen cooking changes that have happened, the family changes have happened, so it's best to get an idea when you're going to start from the beginning and see what wasn't working in the past, and just not duplicate that again with the new cabinets.
Okay. So you really look at the space, and then you look at the lifestyle, and then you decide what functionality they need.
Correct, and to come up with the plan. So then we have the plan, and then everybody can bid on the plan, but at least that way we have a good starting point with what it is we're trying to do for them.
Okay, great.
Is there a common mistake that, you know, you go in and 90% or the majority of people are doing the same thing wrong that you see over and over again? Or does it depend on, you know, there are certain things that were popular in the 60s versus the 70s, and you can kind of tell, you know, the age of the kitchen based on the layout?
You can definitely tell the age of the kitchen. And this kitchen that I just renovated in Lexington, as you can see, dark brown cabinets, exposed black hinges, peninsula. These days it's all about the island.
Okay.
So that would show you the age of the kitchen. And a lot of the cooking styles as well has changed. Microwaves are falling out of favor. We're seeing more steam ovens for healthier eating. We're seeing prep sinks for more people in the kitchen, more people in the family to help cook in the kitchen. So we're seeing those changes that are going to affect the new plan as well.
Okay. And what about in terms of space? Do you just take everything down and, you know, rearrange, you know, everything based on the way people are functioning these days versus what the traditional kind of, you know, box is? Or how do you even start that process?
Sure. Well, the space does lend itself. If people don't want to move their windows or change their windows location, then that would dictate, obviously, where the kitchen sink or the main kitchen sink is placed. It's under the window in New England. So if you see a cooktop that's sunken into the countertop, into the peninsula without a lot of ventilation, that also has changed. Now we definitely ventilate our cooktops to bring that outside air.
Okay. Very interesting.
So the old days of the triangle, is that still in play?
There is a triangle, however, a lot of times you see two triangles in the kitchen. You'll see the cooktop fridge to the prep sink for the main cooking, and then you can also see for larger family meals the second sink, the main sink, the dishwashing sink, also getting involved in the triangle.
Wow. What about finishes today? What type of kitchens are in as far as cabinets and
If
all
you
that?
look on House or Pinterest, it's all about the white kitchen.
Is it?
White. And there's many shades of white, mind you, 7 or 8 shades, off-white, antique white, ivory white, frosty white. It's white. White is ruling the day these days.
Okay.
Yeah.
And granite?
Granite as well as quartz. Quartz is making a strong headway into the market. Quartz is basically granite, 90% granite, all chopped up and re-glued back together. So it's stronger, it's antimicrobial, you're going to look at less seams, the slabs are bigger. However, the colors are going to be limited, whereas the granite colors are what you find in nature can be beautiful and exquisite. The Zodiacs or the Caesar stones, all your quartz product are going to have a quieter look to them.
Are they going to be more even because they're manufactured as opposed to
Yes.
when you get the granite, you could have, you know, different coloring throughout
Correct.
the piece. It's going to be a
Correct.
little bit more even toned.
So when you choose your granite, you might choose it from a small piece, and it's always recommended to go see the slab because you never know what's going to come out of nature. It could be a little darker, lighter, more movement, less movement, whereas with the quartz, that sample represents exactly the dialot that they just made. Granted, dialots vary, but not anywhere near as much as the granites.
Cost-wise, is that more expensive, less less expensive?
About the same. About
Okay.
the same.
So it's just a personal preference, but you're
Personal
just starting
preference.
to see the trend is to go with the
Yes,
quartz?
for less maintenance mostly.
Okay. Everything comes back in style, and I'm sure we'll be seeing other things kind of come back
Yes.
again as well.
Yep.
You mentioned a little bit about appliances.
Yes.
The cooktops are still big time. And you said microwaves are going? And they're gonna
Microwaves are
bring-
going, and steam ovens are making headway into the market. It's a faster way to cook. You're not losing the vitamins and minerals that you do in a microwave, and it reheats better. The food won't be as dry and rubbery as what can happen in a microwave. We're also seeing several refrigerators. You can have one main fridge. We've also seen smaller fridges under an island for the cook to have right there, or maybe it's a fridge for the kids to have snacks with. We're seeing a lot of that as well.
Or beer or wine cooler, I'll bring that in.
Beer wine cooler.
I've been a few months without, so
not right
top
now.
of mind.
Exactly.
But you do see a lot of that in the new construction, that they'll have some of those, beverage coolers or whatever.
Sure, sure. That way the kids can get their snacks and they're not in the main cook's triangle area. Yeah, yeah.
Now, you were telling me off camera that you just come back from a kitchen convention.
Kitchen and bath show in Las
Right.
Vegas.
So
Correct.
what's coming down the pike that we haven't really even seen yet?
Oh, well, there, especially it was out west in Las Vegas, they have a much more contemporary feel than we do here in the Northeast. So we're seeing a lot of freestanding hoods, stainless hoods, a lot of...
But what starts in the west, at least in real estate, what starts in the west usually moves east.
It's moving,
So will
right.
it come here?
It's going to take
Okay.
some time, right? You see a lot of floating shelves, a lot of units like that, a lot of multiple heights countertops for people to chop at the 42 height versus your traditional 36. Seeing a lot of that.
Oh, that's exciting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if somebody says that they really want to come in with the newest and the greatest, then they need to talk to a professional designer and professional that's in the industry that knows what's coming down the pike versus just going to a box store and saying, I'll take this.
I would recommend that, and you're going to get much more personalized service than you would at a larger store like that.
What is the amount of time that usually is involved from when you first start with somebody till their kitchen is or bath is actually done?
The planning can take up to a month. A lot of people might be thinking about renovating their kitchen, but you don't actually start to look at other people's kitchens until you realize you are renovating your own kitchen. So a lot of people like to do that, and when they go to their friends' houses, they see what they have, and they realize all the things they've been missing. So we put that together on a wish list first, and then we plan around that. That can take up to a month to choose all the colors
I'm
and
actually
finishes.
surprised it's that short. I would have thought it would have been a longer process. So in their minds, they're probably thinking about it for a year or two or three before they actually make the phone call.
Sure. You get the
and have it
magazine
approved.
pictures
Yeah, yeah.
or the pictures on House and Pinterest. Correct. They've been doing that research before they typically
So
call
does
me.
that happen? You walk in and they say, I want this kitchen.
Sometimes, yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes the client might know exactly what they want, and other times I've had clients that have no idea. So it's fun either way, actually.
They say, just tell me what's coming, and then you have to kind of
Right.
look at their lifestyle and design a kitchen for
They
them.
tell me what doesn't work. The countertop might be filled with papers from their office, their home office, that spills into the kitchen, or the kids' homework and whatnot, or all the vitamins or the prescriptions all over the counter. So we look at those things first and come up with some solutions as well that they may not be aware of.
How about layout as far as eating area versus the prep area? Are they still two separate areas, or is that blending back together? or-
It's blending back together. A lot of people like to have, as they're cooking, have family and friends sitting down around them, so there could be seating on the island. Island can be multiple heights to accommodate either the lower 30-inch high table for the older folks or maybe higher stools. But there is also still a table area, whether it's a table in the kitchen or whether it's the dining room that's not anywhere near as formal as it used to be. The dining rooms are getting used more. So that would be for dinner, and then maybe a banquette or smaller seating area for breakfast and weekend lunches.
So what we used to call the country kitchen, where the dining room was incorporated into the kitchen. Now people are taking that formal dining room and they're using that every day, and then they're taking the space that maybe the table used to be in and adding cabinets or adding useful.
Adding cabinets, maybe it's a separate desk area for the kids to do homework, or maybe it's another food pantry area or entertainment area for a TV. We're seeing a lot of TVs in the kitchen.
I was gonna say couches. I seem to see a lot of people that have like the couches because they do, like you said, in our family, everyone hangs out in the kitchen. You have family parties and you've got all these rooms to entertain, and everyone hangs out in the kitchen. So you do start. I've been seeing. I don't know if that's kind of getting. Is that passé? Is that still kind of popular to have that kind of comfortable element in there as well?
Especially the open plan. It moves from the kitchen to the table to the living area.
So is that open concept here to stay, or is that going away, or I mean, because it
So
seems to be like
far
that's what
it's here.
everybody wants, but.
So far it's here.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Air district. Now, in terms of, you can obviously do renovations and have a small dollar budget versus a large dollar budget. Are there certain things that are most important to focus on when you're trying to decide on your line item as to where to spend the money within the kitchen? And then also, kind of a follow up to that is there one thing if you're thinking about selling and you're doing a kitchen over for just pure investment purposes? Are there certain things that are where you should spend those dollars versus other areas that are a little bit, might get less of a return?
Sure. So it would be two separate concepts if you're going to renovate your kitchen for your own use versus renovating your kitchen to sell. So let's do the easier one first. If you're going to renovate your kitchen to sell, you're going to get about 70% back a return on investment.
Okay.
And you should look to spend between 6 to 10% of your home value. So for a $450,000 home, you should be anticipating between $27,000 to $45,000.
Okay.
So if you're going to sell, obviously keep it depersonalized. Stainless steel
But you're only going to
appliances.
get 70% of that back.
That is the latest statistics.
Okay,
It used to
okay.
be higher, but it's dropped.
Okay.
Correct. Stainless steel appliances are what's in, but don't do the professional cooktops. You're not going to get your money back. But now if you're going to stay in your home, and that's something you always wanted, if you love cooking, you want that big gas
quality of
range,
life
go
spend.
for it. Go for it. I did come up with a budget, and if you like my Facebook page, you will get, it's a budgeting for your kitchen, and I do go at a breakout of what you expect to spend on each product. So once you figure out where you want to be your budget-wise, that 6 to 10% figure, we have all sorts of breakdowns of where that money can go. And then from there, if you decide I really want that gas range, then we just sort of move the numbers.
And
to
that's
make it
for
work.
quality of life if you're staying there as well. It
Yes.
should be in that 6 to 10%.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right.
And
So-
certainly you can go over, but you do have to keep an eye on that.
A lot of people don't want to. You have to be careful about over improving because you never
Yes.
know what's going to happen. So you don't want to,
Correct.
$200,000 kitchen in a $400,000 home, right?
Doesn't make
yeah,
sense.
Right.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. Yeah.
It's so interesting, really.
Thank
Wealth
you.
of knowledge.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I've been doing this 17 years.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
You mentioned liking you on Facebook.
Yeah.
Could you just say the name of your company again?
Sure, it's Edesia Kitchen and Bath Studios.
And could you
in
just
Burlington.
describe where that name comes from?
Oh, sure. So I was trying to decide a name, and and nobody can spell my first name or my last name. So
Okay.
I decided to choose something different.
All right.
Edesia is the Roman goddess of feasting and gathering, and
Oh,
that's
how
pretty much
appropriate.
what goes on in a kitchen, right? It's when you think of all the tasks that happen in the kitchen, not just cooking, and there's homework, there's bill paying, there's some people wash a lot. You're going to wash the baby in the kitchen sink, feeding the dog. There's a lot of things going on in the kitchen, and it's a spot where everybody's going to gather.
Yeah,
So that's why I chose
very
that
interesting.
name.
What a
Thanks.
very appropriate name.
Thank you
very
very
nice.
much. Thank you.
Well, that's great. Thank you so much for joining
Thank you for
us.
having me.
And I think that's a great place. We'll be back in just a moment.
Thank you.
On to the next segment, Beantown and Beyond. Would like to highlight 6 Charter Street, Unit 1 in the north end of Boston. And this was a 2-bedroom open concept loft style unit. It had an updated eat-in kitchen. It was right on the corner of Hanover Street, right next to the fire station. We had that listed for $389, sold it for $385. What a charming, unique space right in the thick of everything. The problem with moving to the north end is I think we'd probably gain a lot of weight. Walking by all
right,
those
right.
restaurants to get home because it's
And
at
the bakeries.
and the bakeries.
Yeah.
It was at the end of Hanover, on the closer to the waterfront side. But a very beautiful unit. A nice gentleman that bought it actually from up this area, bought something in the city, and that was very very nice to have a great area of town. Boston continues to be a hot market. All of the sections of Boston, Dorchester, South Boston, Back Bay, Beacon Hill, South End, the North End, everything is just hot, hot, hot. So we were definitely fortunate to be part of that. And again, that sold for $385 on a $389 sale price. So it was definitely a great bargain for somebody. So that's just a little bit about our Beantown and beyond.
And now we're coming to the end of the show where we leave you with something to think about. And today I'd like to just highlight a listing that's currently on the market. It's 25 Country Club Road in North Reading. It's in the Ridgeway Estates area. It's 11 rooms, 4 bedrooms, 3.5 baths. Absolutely spectacular brand new kitchen. It has a separate breakfast room, has a cathedral ceiling family room, formal living room and dining room, 3.5 baths, 4 bedrooms upstairs, 2-car attached garage, nice yard, nice paver patio, just real nice private backyard. And that's all listed in North Reading for $699.9. So if you're interested, you'd like to take a look at it, feel free to give us a call.
We normally address our questions and answers at this point of the show, but we dealt with those earlier. So I just want to leave you with our email address in case you do have any questions that you'd like addressed on the show. Please email us at price.thishouse@century21.com, and we'll be sure to get to those during our next show. We're excited to bring you the second quarter results because that's when all of the spring market activity will be very evident. So make sure you tune in next time for Price This House.
Thanks.